called and the notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. If we adjourn into closed session for any reason, I will announce the chapter section. Now join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. First item on our agenda is roll call. Esteban Cerda.
Present.
Maria Cruz Perez.
Present.
Maria Douglas.
Present.
Sean Glovier.
Present.
Daryl Owens.
Here.
Felicia Moody.
Here.
Debbie Villagomez.
Here.
Let the record reflect a full contingent of board members. Items 3 and 4 are agenda items, public comment on agenda items, and public comment on non-agenda items. And when I looked, no one had signed up. I'll make sure of that.
No one is.
Let the record reflect that no one has signed up for conversation or speaking on any non-agenda item or any agenda item. Next item up is for reorganization of the board. At this time, we will take a short recess or go in closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code, Section 551.074, and hopefully it will be short. We'll be right back out. Regular session at 7:10. It's now time to reorganize the board for officers. So first, I'll open the floor for nominations for the office of president. Nomination can be made by any board member and can be seconded by one or more board members. Purpose is that more board members make second, that is to show support for that particular candidate. And so I'll open the floor for nominations for the office of president of Kendall ISD School Board.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Daryl Owens as president.
Second that.
There's a motion by Ms. Gomez has a motion, second by Ms. Douglas,
I second that as well.
seconded by Mr. Cruz.
No,
Serta.
Mrs. Cruz.
Serta.
I'm sorry, Sarah, wrong person. Sarah, yep. Any other seconds? Then I'll
Second.
open the floor for any other nominations for president of the Kendall ISD School Board. The chair hearing no other nominations, I'll call for a vote of all those in favor of Daryl Owens being the president of the Kendall ISD School Board, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any members opposed? The chair here no opposition, so Mr. Owens is unanimously elected as the president of the KISD School Board. I checked the box. I filled in the information on the closed session to start. All right? Congratulations. Thank you, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Okay. So the next board position, cheat sheet? Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, nominations are now in order for the office of Vice President of the Kennedale ISD School Board. Are there any nominations for the position of Vice President?
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to nominate Maria Douglas to the position of Vice President of the Kennedale ISD School Board.
Second.
Okay, so that was nominated by
Mr. Glover.
Glovier and seconded by
Moody.
Ms. Moody.
Ms. Moody and Cruz. Are there any other nominations for the position of Vice President? If there are no further nominations, the chair now closes the nomination for Vice President. So all in favor of our nominee being Vice President, Ms. Maria Douglas, let known by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Moody, you Douglas, you've been elected Vice President of Kennesaw ISD School Board.
Thank you.
Okay. And nominations now in order for the office of Secretary.
Make a motion for Sean Glover for Secretary of the School Board.
Sean Glover nominated.
Second.
Okay, so Sean,
Ms. Douglas made the motion, seconded by Ms. Villa Gomez.
so Ms. Douglas has made the motion and is seconded by Ms. Villa Gomez.
Yes.
Okay. Are there any additional nominations for the position of Secretary for the Kennedale School Board? Nominations are now closed for that position, so all in favor of Mr. Glover being Secretary of the School Board, let it know by the sign aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I hope that each person that abstained, because they're not able to vote by themselves.
Okay. And each person abstained for their own. Okay, so I happily send you all of this paperwork to keep up with.
Thanks, sir.
All right, I'm sure that everyone who's accepted the position of a position on the board will do our very best to make this school board the best it can be for the upcoming year. I thank you in advance for all of your time and dedication. Next on the agenda, Section 4 be, Section 5 be Section 6, special recognition.
With the Paul Awards, district awards, you all have the list of it. It's quite extensive for the end of the school year. I don't know if you want me to read through all the names, or if you just want to see this. We have some presentations we have to get to, so let me know if you want me to go through the names or not.
I think it's appropriate this way.
All right.
Santo?
Say yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
I'm good with this.
Oh, I just can't hear you. All right, so starting with central office, we have Jessica Meyer, Kim Daly, Tracy Williams. Kendall High School, we have Alice Nguyen with 3, Allison Mantell with 3, Allison Middleton, Amy Littleton with 2, Carolyn Cullum with 2, Christy Vick, Clint Funderburg with 2, Cody Bircher, Danny Wilcox, Doug Groff with 3, Aaron Strange with 5, Errol Oaktai, Gary Burkham, Janice Sarman, Julie Naughton with 3, Justin Daniel, Kayla Bond, Kelly Kidd with 2, Christina Hullett with 2, Kylie Robinson with 4, Lindsay Hammonds, Lauren Rosser with 4, Marissa Church with 2, Matt Casey, Matthew Munson with 9, Melinda Knappenberger, Melissa Springfield, Michelle Fable, Monica Stevens with 3, Tricia Arnold, Tracy Hadaway, Tracy Spinks with 4, Wendy Hale, Wendy Thacker with 2. And then, at the junior high school, we have Mr. Rhines, and he's the lone wolf. And then we've got Arthur Intermediate, Carrie Clark, Evelyn Ish, Maggie Enlow, and Christy Morrell. Delaney Elementary, we have Amy Jurchison, Amy Poe, Kathy Tran, Jackie Lopez, Jana Little, Joanna Rowe, John Varner, 4, Kim Cashburn, Kelly Dawson with 5, Kim Brown with 2, Marcy Harris with 3, Joanna Rowe, looks like she had 2, Sarah Blockland, and then at Patterson Elementary, we had
Is
Angela
it-
Hamilton.
And Van Tran.
Oh, sorry, did I?
Mm-hmm.
They did scroll down. And Van Tran, sorry about that. And then at Patterson, we have Angela Hamilton, Randy Russler, Brittany French with 2, Brittany Owens, Crystal Aplon with 3, Courtney Spitzer, Darlene Manning, Deborah Labrador, Katie Wheatley, Kenya Evans, Lacey Queen, Lisa Horton, Sandra Ball, and Tanivia 3. So round of applause for all of our. So with the high school, I think that students were nominating several of those faculty, so that's always a good thing. So,
Next, we move to section 7, which is the consent agenda. All items listed under the subheading will be adopted with one motion unless there are motions to be removed from the consent agenda by a trustee for discussion. Are there any items on the consent agenda that any trustee would like to have removed?
I'd like to make a motion to approve all items under the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Villa-Gomez, second by
Moody.
Ms. Moody. All in favor, let me know by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. Next, we'll move to section number 8. It's update from the architects and engineers on the building renovations.
All right, so we'll have you guys come down. So, welcome back, Josh. Welcome from Huckabee. Do you have a slideshow? Yes.
All right, good evening. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Josh Meyer, I'm with the Architects, and tonight I'll be giving an update on the James A. Arthur remodel for the Early Childhood Center project. So this is a revisit of some information that I've shared previously, just kind of recap the project as a whole. We will be including a new drive at the back of the facility and 2 new playscapes behind the 2-story building. That's still as planned from the original scope. The floor plan here, really the updates that you see here are just defining phase 1, phase 2. So phase 1 were all the areas in yellow. That was what we were originally planning on touching. We've now expanded that to include really the entire rest of the building, including the music gym. Really the only building that we're not touching now is the competition gym. So we have phase 2 defined, and then the competition gym shown as not in scope. Because of the condition and what happened on the first floor of the 2-story building, we took this opportunity to kind of revisit the office layout to create a more efficient layout. So the top plan shows how that is currently laid out. The bottom is what we're proposing for the remodeled floor plan. And really the area in the red box is what we are proposing to renovate. And really what we're gaining out of that is an additional first grade classroom on that first floor. That was accomplished by moving the workroom the teacher workroom out of this 2-story building into the phase 1 building, single-story building. So we gained some space there. We relaid out the janitor's closet and restroom and kind of flipped the nurse to the other side of that same area. We relayed out the entry area. We still have our secure vestibule. The reception now, the desk will face the reception. The desk will face the vestibule. So you can see people entering into that area. We have a secretary's office, the principal's office, and a conference room, and a storage closet, kind of all in that same area. At the same time, we gained the first grade classroom. We will be touching some of the classrooms on the second floor. There's a few that are left with a wall that divides the 2 classrooms into smaller spaces, so we'll be taking that wall out, so we have the same size classrooms on that second floor, that 2-story building. So when we wrapped up phase 1, we were sitting at a budget of $2,804,760. My last estimate put us basically right on that mark. We didn't issue drawings, thinking that we would wrap this phase 2 into the phase 1 documents so that we have a larger package to issue to bid. It becomes more attractive to contractors to have a $5 million project as opposed to a $2 million project. So in doing so, there is escalation involved that we'd like to take into consideration of when the project would actually bid. So for phase 1, that added an additional $145,000. So you see the new total there. The phase 2 scope listed below that is the original, what we were always planning on doing, and those totals have not changed to the right. Then I have a second category here of the additional scope that we're proposing for phase 2. Basically, that is to address needs that came about because of what happened in the first floor of that two-story building. Replacing casework, relaying out that admin clinic space to make it more efficient, going back and putting new texture on the walls because the jib board has been removed about 5 feet up. Providing a cafeteria projector and screen, teacher workroom casework in the Phase 1 building. We'll be refinishing all the doors, all the wood doors throughout the building so that we have a consistent look throughout the buildings. We'll need 2 additional graphic walls because of the rework of the kindergarten classrooms on the 2nd floor. 88 updates to a few single-user restrooms, and then an allowance for some side ADA updates that may need to happen. So you see the totals there with the new general conditions, fees, design contingency, and escalation. So Phase 2 comes to 2.7 million. So when you combine what we were planning to do for Phase 1 plus Phase 2, we're at 5.7 million. And then I have the line item there, waiting on what that insurance contribution would be to the project because of the damage that occurred. So this is an update to the schedule. We are currently, obviously, in May. My team will start back to work on this project for Phase 2 in June. We'll start schematic design like we did on the Phase 1 portion of the project. That'll take us to August. We'll move into a design development and construction document phase. That'll take us to October. Then we'll start our jurisdictional review with the city to get the permit, bid the documents. Construction would start at the end of this year and take us to July of next year. And still time there for moving into the facility before school starts. Any questions?
Yes, so if you'll go back to the one that lists everything, so Phase 1 and Phase 2 is everything that we discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and then if you'll go back to the map, okay, we can start there. I just want to look at it again because we don't have it to see.
What this configuration does, it allows us to have 11 classrooms on the first floor for first grade. That gives us 6 full kindergarten classrooms on the 2nd floor. And then we have, I think, 5 or 6 additional kindergarten classes in the old area. So, and then we have a flex room where it could be either pre-K or kinder depending on numbers.
Yep.
So we have some flexibility.
The old library becomes a flex space for kinder or first grade. So, previous conversations we've had, there was concern about finishes and look of new and old. That's not a concern anymore. So, I'm talking about reworking that reception area, but really the scope in this building is all new finishes throughout. All the restrooms are being updated. So when you walk through this building, it's going to be a consistent look throughout now.
Okay, will you go forward then? So this, Mr. G, is where you were saying we're gaining,
Those
to the
amounts
far
were
right.
all the same. We were gonna have overflow for first grade upstairs, and
Yep.
we weren't touching the one room. But now we're touching all 6 up top, or all the rooms up top. We'll have 6 full kindergarten classrooms upstairs.
Okay.
And then you still have your other kindergarten classrooms that we had in the other old half of the building. And then that area where the old library is, that would become the flex space where it can be either pre-K or kinder.
So
Depending on what they
kinder
need.
and pre-K rooms are now more comparable square footage wise.
Are we not gonna have a library anymore?
So the library is gonna move out into what is kind of this entry, side entrance area in the middle here. So I have money in the budget for a new circulation desk. We're also utilizing, you see the two rooms noted as collab spaces. Those can be for teachers, they can be breakout space. So that will become the new library area.
Thank you.
So it's gonna be a very open concept library.
Yep,
Right in the middle of the
exactly.
building.
it's not a traditional library that we think of it, it's new. And it just depends on your, opinion of the collab space. You can tell I'm not a big fan. But kids like it. They like the open concept. They like being able to walk in and meet all of their friends, and this little group is over here, and this little group is over here. All they're missing is Starbucks, and then they have their own little thing, so it's cute.
Can you explain to me a little bit more? You said there was $145,000 in escalation
Yes,
costs.
ma'am.
Can you explain those escalation costs, please?
So that was for, we originally were planning on this project bidding at the beginning of April. That didn't happen. So now I'm taking that number and escalating it out to our new bid date, which would be in November. And so per our understanding of the market and how things are going, costs, that escalation accounts for taking that piece of the project to November now, so that we don't hopefully have any surprises come bid day. That is us, Huckabee taking the information that we have from bids around the area, across the state, information that we receive from contractors, and doing our best to add an escalation to the project to account for unknowns that may occur between now and then.
And once it's bidded and the contract, will there be a provision in there that the costs remain that, or will it be open for the entire contract that it could continue to escalate based on ongoing costs?
Once it's bid and a contractor selected and the board approves that, that is the cost for the project. We typically have a contingency set aside for if something happens on the project in an unknown, unforeseen condition.
Right.
But as far as escalation goes, you're locked in once we've gone through the process of bids and the board awards the contract to the selected contractor.
Okay.
In essence, isn't the 145,000 basically contingency?
It's to give us cushion on that number to take us to where we need to be for the new bid date. And you can see I have for the phase 2 that we're about to start, there's also a 7% escalation I have a 5% design contingency, just, we haven't started that set of documents yet, so that covers maybe some things that could come out of our conversations in the design. But also that escalation to take us for phase 2 to that November date as well.
Can you go back to the map so I can have Robert come up and we can talk about the engineering and what's gonna have to happen?
I just have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think I've got what you're saying about the escalation, and once the contract is bidded and accepted, the price is basically locked in, except for some contingencies that
Right.
could come up. What about materials? Once it's bidded and that's the price, again, no additional increase as materials go along, that price is locked in as well?
So I can tell you on a few projects that I have under construction right now, we have challenges with materials, mainly in regards to availability. Some things, it seems like every week there's something new that comes about that we have to deal with, we have to react. For this project, I made sure that my team, it's primarily an interior renovation, so I made sure that my team knew that we weren't gonna be selecting materials that had to come overseas. We're looking at local materials readily available. My interior designer reached out to her reps regarding the finishes that were selected for flooring, tile, plenty of supply, plenty in stock, readily available, because at that time we were trying to get this project done over a summer, right? As much as we could, so that was our mindset. So I can't say that we're gonna not run into challenges when we start construction, because it seems like, as an example, this week, striping for a track, they can't get the striping. It's paint, but it seems like every week we're running into something. However, the contractors have been good about, okay, well, we can't do this, but we can do this, and we react. Sometimes there is a cost incurred from that, and that comes out of contingency to cover that cost, but we try to avoid that, obviously, with talking through it, coming up with the best solution, so we can keep moving forward.
So along that massive rise of cost of all these materials, last time I saw you, I think gas was $2.79.
Yeah, right?
Right? Have we thought about buying this now or as soon as possible and storing it in that building until we need it? Because if we wait, 6 months from now,
Has to go.
have you been to
So
Home Depot?
that is-
Cost of a sheet of plywood is ridiculous.
So that's where the
Just-
escalation is
Okay.
built in to cover that. If we were to start purchasing things that, you would want the contractor on board. So the route that we're going for this project is competitive sealed proposal, and so we don't have a contractor on board to start buying those materials. That's where that escalation comes in to help cover those situations.
A lot of times the contractors have connections and suppliers
And when were we expecting that to be bidded out again?
So the new bid date will be at the end of November. So they'll have about a month, I believe, we'll issue, I think, October 13th, around that date. And they'll have about a month to get their bids in, do an evaluation, and be prepared for that November board meeting. So they can get started as soon as possible after that.
Awesome. Any more questions for Josh? Dr. Fuji?
I think we can go back to the one slide so I can talk about the insurance and what's gonna happen with the insurance and what we gotta do first.
Good evening, board members. There will actually be some work going on in advance of putting this thing out. As you guys know, if you walked around, you had a lot of water coming up through your floor, through the admin area and across through the conference room across the hall. The district, through their insurance company, has been working with a forensic firm, structural firm, to evaluate the building. They've identified a section, actually, that encompasses, essentially, if you look where it says, go to the existing plan, first grade, and then straight down through into the administrative area. They want us to take out all of that concrete. And so in an effort to keep this thing on track, what we've done is engage that engineering firm that has the drawings, that's familiar with the structure, to help us prepare design specifications to go in, demolish, remove, and replace that concrete. So we spent the better part of the day Monday on site with a geotechnical firm that took samples through the available holes that were cut in the slab. We sampled down to about 5 feet. Very pleased that we didn't see any evidence of moisture intrusion into those soils. The characteristics of the soil are expansive in nature, but they've been there for a long time, so I don't anticipate that being a big problem. What we'll likely do is simply remove the concrete, place a leveling course down of a nice select material, reinforcing and place the concrete. Our objective is to get that done in advance of when this project starts, so that when they come in, they've basically got a clean slate, walls are down, particularly in the admin area, so we can reframe that up based on the new design. We're coordinating all of these efforts with the underwriters. They recognize what we're trying to do. I don't believe anything we're doing is substantially above what they're already covering, so there should not be any material cost increase on the part of the district to cover any of these costs. And I know those numbers seem to have crept up on us, but I think to a large extent what you see in phase 2, with the exception of some of the other spaces like the music room, the workroom, that kind of thing, the bulk of those costs are going to be reimbursed by insurance. So you're in much better shape than you were when we initially started planning this thing. But there's a lot of work going on in advance of turning the contractor loose to do the renovation work. We're trying to just keep that ball rolling to stay ahead of that. We've also got the design coming to you for the improvements to the junior high, as well as, for your consideration, secure vestibules at Delaney Patterson in the high school. So we're working on all of that concurrently. You brought up a good question, Mr. Glover, earlier. We've provided dimensions to the contractor so that they can perhaps go ahead and order the hollow metal doors and frames. Now, that's about a 6 to 8 week delivery. So if we wait until we actually come back for approval of the entire thing, we're pressing that start of school date. So we're trying to get all of those done, but we're putting it into pieces so you guys can make that decision. But we thought we might move forward and go ahead and get those pieces ordered, get in the supply chain so that they show up when we need them. So a lot of moving parts, but I think we've got it on track right now.
And for our new board members, if you're not familiar, this is Mr. Robert Gamboa. He's with Owner Builders Resource. He's our engineering consultant.
Okay.
When will we have an update on the drawings for the secure vestibules at the other campuses?
We actually just got sketches yesterday or the day before yesterday. They're conceptual in nature right now. Pretty solid though, the direction we're gonna head. They were out as well last week taking 3-dimensional photos of all the spaces so we can get the geometry correct in those areas. We've got some components to work out with hardware and access controls in those spaces, so we've been working with Ms. Mode on your preferred vendors, so we make sure we get that in the specifications. But we can certainly have concepts back to you to review later this month, or early next month, or perhaps maybe even through a board
Maybe a
memo.
special meeting, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
We may need to have a special meeting to start facilitating it a little bit faster.
Absolutely. All right,
Thank you. I
Thanks,
know
guys.
everyone's super excited to get that in place on all the campuses. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so that takes us to,
I think we skipped 7E unintentionally.
It was part of
Seven-
7E.
No.
part
It
of
was
the
part of
consent agenda.
consent.
That's the consent agenda, which was
Oh.
approved already.
You're right. And I'm the one that, sorry. You are correct.
I'm sure you have to get used to my voice tone, but we'll work this stuff out.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Right.
you.
Okay, so that takes us to section number 9, business items requiring some action. 9A, discuss and consider approval of the purchase of additional STEM scope resources. Dr. Blue?
I am Julie Booth. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction. Welcome to Board members. I'm here today to request approval for a purchase over $50,000. Earlier this year, I came to you and asked for approval for our ELA, our reading, so we could round out our reading libraries and really make sure that all of our students in all of our classrooms have equitable access to materials. Today, I'm here to talk about math and science. We have, if you look at the information sheet that's linked in the board agenda, you can see that earlier this year, we spent about $23,000 on math manipulatives. So we also, let's see, we bought 2 rounds of those for K-4, and then we also bought it for 5th grade. We would like to buy additional resource kits. It's the Engage and Explore. It allows our students to build vocabulary, develop conceptual knowledge, and prepare for independent practice. This is something that we would like to use ESSER funds on, so it's not something that's going to come out of the general budget. On the second page of the information sheet, you'll see Fluency Builder resource kits. We want to do stations, so after the teachers introduce a topic, build vocabulary around the topic, we want to give students an opportunity to do independent practice. This proposal is very timely because today I had a marathon interview with our TA representatives who were here on site. It was a lovely visit. They're very, very complimentary of Kennedale, and not tonight, but I'll share that with you. But one of the recommendations that they had, or one of the things they talked about, is that in one of the classrooms they visited, they saw students working with clay and working with geometric shapes and doing movements. And then 2 of the other classrooms that they visited, they mentioned the word packets. And the students were working very closely. This was general ed and special ed. They were doing worksheets essentially. And I shared with them, one thing that we're really working towards in Kennedale is to make sure that all of our teachers, all of our students in classrooms have access to the same resources. And so this is something that's going to support that initiative so that not, our students are moving away from just working on worksheets and really getting in there, digging deep, working with their hands, building conceptual knowledge. I have lots more information, but I'll take questions.
These are not consumables, right?
Well, sometimes the blocks break or get lost, and so it's something that once we have these foundational kits, we will, of course, replace what's needed year after year, but it's the primary cost is just getting them here, getting them organized, labeled, putting them in bins. And the great thing about these kits is it comes with all of that to make sure that we can keep an inventory of them this year. And for those of you who are new, we did last year roll out an online inventory system. So all of our campuses have scanners. So one of the first things that I learned when I started is we had lots of paper inventory sheets that sometimes, didn't make it from campus to campus or whenever there were personnel changes. And so now everything is scanned in and scanned out. We have a very organized system, and so we're going to use that to keep track of this as well.
It's not gonna be a recurring cost, so.
Oh, it's not going to be a recurring cost. It's stuff that they can hold and work with, and if we lose it, well, of course, we want to replace that, but this isn't something that's going to be ongoing.
I appreciate that goal for equitable access. When we make this purchase, is this simply adding to our current inventory and we will still need more? Or adding this will allow this to
will round
cover-
us out.
So all the
Yes, ma'am.
classrooms will now have equitable access and there will be sufficient
Yes.
supplies for all the classrooms? Okay.
Mhm. And if you look closely, we're also providing PD, right? Because resources that sit in a box are just very expensive rocks. So we're providing, we're working on a PD schedule to make sure that all of our teachers not only have access to the resources, but know how to use them.
Any additional questions for Dr. Vu regarding the STEM scope? Thank you, Dr. Vu.
So I am seeking
Yeah.
approval.
Yes.
I'd
I'd like to make a motion to approve the purchase of additional STEM scope resources with ESSER III funding as presented.
Second.
Okay, the motion was proposed by Ms. Douglas and seconded by Mr. Glovier. Votes, all in favor of the motion, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously.
Thank you
Dr. Vu.
very much.
Might as well stay there.
Next is it's discuss, consider approval of the resolution to convene the School Health Advisory Council recommendation for human sexuality instruction.
So I have this displayed for your reference. Our board has already adopted a policy, EHAA local, which dictates the board passing resolution to convene the SHAC. So tonight, what I am requesting is for you all to approve a resolution for the SHAC to convene. So I want to be very clear, you're not approving anything tonight other than giving us permission to meet with the SHAC and discuss issues related to the new TEKS in health that are going to be rolled out 22-23. At this point, we can't do anything until this resolution is passed, and so that's why I'm here today.
So I know the SHAC is in existence and has been having meetings. So did we commission them to begin last year and they didn't get a curriculum proposed to us, or?
That's a
Help me with
really
that.
great question. Unfortunately, I can't answer it right now. I was only recently given this opportunity to start working with the SHAC, and so I haven't attended the meeting, so I can't speak to what happened previously, but we are passing the resolution. One thing that may be important to note is that this is a new bill, and so in terms of the human sexuality instruction, it's related to TEKS that they were passed in 2020, but they aren't set to roll out until the fall.
I believe the resolution is only allowing, y'all are allowing the SHAC to look at the TEKS for this, and this is their proposal, and that's what's being proposed. It's not forming the SHAC, it's.
Right, but I'm saying that SHAC has already been commissioned with doing that, because in the SHAC meetings, there's already a discussion last year with the SHAC members to begin to look at the TEKS and to develop a proposal to bring forth over the summer and then the beginning of the school year. So I'm a little confused about why we're commissioning them again to do that. And then I know that SHAC has missed at least two public meetings, or at least the last public meeting was canceled and I don't think has been rescheduled.
The last public meeting was canceled because this resolution had not been passed. The last public meeting included an agenda discussing human sexuality, and the SHAC can't discuss that until this resolution is passed.
Okay. So it sounds like we might have got a little bit ahead of ourselves.
I can't speak to that.
Okay.
Okay, any additional questions for Dr. Vu?
Yes, I have, not Dr. View, but the, I see nodding on that side, and I just happened to look up. So we're trying to fix, what was the nod for?
It seemed like we got ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
The SHAC was maybe moving a little bit ahead of
Okay.
what they were requested or commissioned to do.
Tap the brakes.
Okay,
Say it again?
Tap
so
the
they had to
brakes.
stop, and now
Okay.
we're in
Okay.
order.
So we're doing it appropriately.
So
doing it in
I've
order.
prepared this resolution for you.
Right.
And once you approve it, I'll be involved in the SHAC. It's a great opportunity, and we'll be meeting and discussing, and then once we have had 2 public meetings and discussed this and the SHAC has developed a recommendation, I will bring the recommendation back to you.
So what are we operating with currently? Because we're commissioning them to come up with, is this just adjusting to the
Currently, we have
new
nothing
TEKS?
because these are new standards.
Okay. So we have something for old standards? Or we-
Yes, but that was approved years and years ago.
Okay.
These are new standards that are set to roll out in the fall, and so we want to make sure that we have the resources that are required by law to teach the standards.
Okay.
Thank you for the explanation. So we'll entertain a motion regarding the JAC resolution.
Make a motion to approve the resolution to convene the district school health advisory council to recommend curriculum materials for human sexuality instruction as presented.
Motion by Ms. Douglas.
Second.
I forgot, who got that one?
I got to make the motion.
Second.
Oh.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Great, so that motion has been seconded. All in favor, let it be known by aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Oppose.
Let the record show that there is one of opposition, and it is Ms. Moody. That motion does pass.
Thank you.
I do have a question before you.
Sure.
So I presume that we will be announcing again the opportunity for community members and the committee to reconvene, and, because I think that was a 2-year term that you serve on the SHAC.
Okay.
So are we opening that back up again? Will we be making that public?
Well, the public meeting is required.
No, not the public meeting, but the membership of the SHAC.
So it's not,
I'm gonna need to look into that more. I'm learning about SHAC as
Okay.
time passes.
The membership has already been established.
Yes, there has
It's
been
just
some
a
mem-
resolution to give them authority to look into the TEKS, so.
Okay. So maybe some of those positions are rolling off because I think they're 2-year terms, but I don't think.
They'll
I
be
think
rolling
that-
off at the end of this year, which is technically the end of July. So then in the fall, when we reconvene, then I think when you're asking about the recruitment process, then it would presumably open up again.
Okay, gotcha. All right, just want to make sure the community has an ample opportunity to be aware
Sure.
that there is this committee, that they are welcome to
And
participate.
so we'll advertise it as a public meeting in the same way we do board meetings.
Right,
so-
but I mean the SHAC committee as well, not just the
Sure.
open public meeting. Okay. And then I had one other question. I'm wondering is there a concern that would be helpful to share so that we could take into consideration what your concern was before moving forward?
everything you just asked, we didn't have that information. So we voted without all of that information, which is why I voted no. So I needed more information to vote.
Okay,
So, but the vote's been taken and we're moving forward, so.
okay.
And your questions after the vote
Helped,
helped.
okay.
Ms. Moody, now that you have additional information, would you like to change your vote?
No,
All right, thank you
I'm
very
good.
much.
Any
Okay.
other questions? Okay, thank you.
No additional questions, we'll move to 9C, which we discuss and consider approval of policy revision for the FDA local admission inter-district transfer. Mr. G.
Okay, so if you will look at the second item on your list, pull that up. These are the proposed revisions to our current policy. Mr. Glover, I believe, was seconded by two other members to bring this as an agenda item to basically allow for selective open enrollment at the high school starting with the 22-23 school year. So Ms. Williams contacted our policy consultant, explained what they were looking for, and this is the revisions they came up with to allow that to happen. So all the red is what has been changed on our current policy. I'm not gonna read all that to you, but I mean, it's basically pretty basic. It's 1.5 pages, basically, and there's only 2 revisions right there. The very first line is the one that really affects what we're doing. I can't see very well, sorry. Which is the very first part is what I'm gonna read, which says, district high school and non-residential student wishing to transfer into the district high school shall file an application for transfer each school year with the superintendent. Transfer shall be granted for 1 regular school year at a time in accordance with this policy. And we already had the other policies. He changed a few words on the other part of the, basically taking out the district, and designee, because that's covered in other policies, another policy. And then the factors, the other addition, the superintendent is authorized to accept or reject any transfer request provided that such action is within regard to race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestral language. And that's, pretty much the standard, so that's what was proposed, that was what the revisions say, and whether or not you want to open up the high school, the next sheets, I'm gonna get back to my other sheet over here. I'll go over the enrollment numbers, and I kind of give you a basis on this one. If you look at the enrollment was growing from 2014-15, 2015-16, by 2016-17, enrollment was at 3,168. That was the highest point the enrollment reached. At that time, from 2017 to the present, the numbers have been going down. As of this year, our numbers went back up. They were at 58, they've gone back down to 48, so it fluctuates. But that drop in numbers right there was 280 students that we had lost as of today, over that time period from 2017 until 2022. If you factor in the state costs for that allotment for each student, that's $6,000, that total would come out to roughly $1.7 million of lost revenue that we have because of declining enrollment. So, it'd be my recommendation to sit there and allow for open enrollment. I've discussed this when I first came into the district. I think, starting off at the high school is a good measure to start off with, and then as we get transitioned in our other buildings, then we can look at other grade levels.
So, Ms. Willoughby, were there any additional points that you wanted to bring up?
I think they've been summed up nicely here. I think we have a one-way road right now of tax dollars that leave our district. Every one of our neighbors can take our students, and we're not getting any back. So I think it stands to reason that we do something about that.
And we have the room, and we have people asking, and
Yeah.
so if we can accommodate, clearly there's plenty of room, and
We'll
at
have to
that
look at-
campus, let that be clear. Everywhere else, yeah.
It'll have to be based off of cohort, and,
Yeah.
like some cohorts are larger than other cohorts, and
Right.
that's where you see some of the flexibility here
Right.
with the fluctuation with the numbers, but based off the number in a cohort would determine how many we would allow in for that per grade level.
Mhm.
Question, I know the maximum that we had in 2016, 2017 was 3168, but what would be the maximum number of students we can have at the high school?
We can house, I don't know that we have a total, I'd say 12, I think it was built for, at the time, 15 or 1600. I think we're at 1,000 right now, roughly, so we have space there.
Okay.
If there's one campus, we have space on the side.
The high school could house 1,200 kids without moving up to 5A.
Is that something we're trying to stay under?
Just a thought.
Your total district enrollment is what does your numbers,
Gotcha.
I mean, the high school, you're not gonna be able to fit 500 kids into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Or
I know when
allow
we
500
just-
transfers in, so.
I'm sorry. I know when we discussed this before, we had talked about some criteria. I don't see any criteria mentioned here other than the obvious, that the decision would not be, based on race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestral language. So obvious, but are there other criteria
Yeah,
as
let me
well?
go back to the thing right here, so basically, those criteria would be
And
established.
also
with
said
us.
something about
So
your
it
code of
says,
conduct.
transfer agreements, transfer students, no. In approving transfer, the superintendent designee shall consider availability of space, instructional staff, and students' disciplinary history, attendance records, and academic performance.
Okay.
So that's, we set those standards.
But do you have them specific enough that there wouldn't be any
We
question?
will.
Okay, okay. So we have not developed them yet, but we will.
Sit down with the high school staff, I mean.
Okay.
Do those, but.
Those specifics may also not be necessarily in the policy itself, but in whoever is on the committee to determine the enrollment or the deciding for enrollment. I don't know that it would
Because
necessarily
we're not
be.
looking to bring in students that are gonna be disciplined
Correct.
attendance. I mean, that's not.
No, I understand that, I just
allowing
think,
anybody in.
right, I think to make sure that there's no disparate treatment, the more that it's spelled out, the less problems you may have as to why one was accepted, maybe one was not accepted. What exactly is the criteria, so that there is no disparate decision-making?
They're not our students, and we set the criteria for what we
Right,
want to be.
right, as long as we have the criteria spelled
Exactly.
out specifically, so that it's not arbitrary decision-making, or it appears to be arbitrary. I understand that we are willingly doing this, and we will set the standards and the expectations, but I think we open ourselves up to potential issues if it isn't clearly delineated, so that it does not appear to be disparity in the decision-making, arbitrary disparity.
We will have clear criteria.
Okay,
And
and
this-
then once, because now we're passing this, or we're looking to include this now, would we, if we pass this, do you know what time frame we'd be able to look at what criteria you developed?
It'd have to be before the school, start of the school year.
Okay,
It'd have to be in the next, by
It'll have to be
July.
the next meeting.
And this is a draft, so this is the final version.
Correct,
so
okay.
We still have an opportunity to,
No.
give Mr. G the opportunity to make those.
all right.
Did you have something to say, Maureen?
No, so, yeah, same thing, so there would like a specific rubric to know, because are you coming in for grades, or are you coming in for athletics, or are you coming in just because you're cute, you're nice, you're friendly? No.
No, I think
Something-
it's gonna be that, they cannot come in if they have their attendance records from a previous district, looking at that, looking at, testing, looking at, grades. I mean, those would be all criteria that would be,
No DAEP,
Right,
no,
like
Yeah,
you know,
behavioral
none of that.
discipline issue things. might be the-
90% or higher. Reimbursement's nice, right? We want to get paid for that, for them being here. So if they're below 90%, we're not getting paid. So we don't want that. And we don't want them to fail. I mean,
Awesome.
it's that simple.
So I've been against this from the beginning. It's not a surprise to anyone. My concern is what it's always been. We're throwing out a lot of ideas, but nothing is in writing. If you have 5 children that apply and 5 children are eligible, right now it's, well, we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this, we can't do that. I knew this was coming when we passed the District of Innovation. In the event that we do this, okay, so that opened the door. And I voted for the innovation because everything else in there was good. But I just think opening up, I understand it's the financial benefit. I am very concerned about the equity of this. We have nothing in writing. So that's my concern.
What would you prefer to see in writing?
Okay, so we're looking at grades, we're looking at attendance. Is it gonna be a lottery? And all the students that qualify it's just a lottery system. Is it going to be first come, first serve? We talked about a committee. All of those things I think should be hashed out. And then at least there's a better plan of what's going on. So then we're not going back and trying to fix something that we could have delineated in the first place. That's my
This was
concern.
just an agenda item for discussion and possible
Okay.
action, so if you don't feel comfortable taking action on it, then you table it until a later date.
Well, no, I don't think, this is just my opinion. I don't think we need to table it. We just need to vote, and whatever the vote is, this is my opinion. Vote, whatever the vote is, that's what we're going to move forward to do.
Well, I kind of share your concern about the equity of it. I like what, President just indicated, that this is kind of a draft. So if in concept, the vote would be to consider this, I could vote for that. If the vote is to implement it, I would feel uncomfortable implementing it until I know what the criteria is to ensure that it is an equitable system, and to have a better understanding of what that process would look like for being able to accept those students.
So what I'm hearing is that there are still some questions about, what it's gonna look like before many of the board members would like to vote on it.
Yes, for me.
Yes, for me.
So then,
I like the concept of it, I just would like to see the criteria.
so my suggestion then that we table this for the next meeting.
When's our next meeting?
So need a motion
I'll make a motion to table the discussion on open enrollment for our high school pending additional information on what criteria would be used if we were moved forward with that.
There's a motion on the table by Ms. Douglas to table the motion.
Second.
And so there's a second by Ms. Moody and Ms. Cruz. We'll give it to Ms. Cruz since it's her first time. Okay.
Who'd we give it to?
Chris.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor of tabling the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so tabling of the motion is passed unanimously.
If we have the information, can we put it back on for July so that we can
Well, I think,
potentially,
June.
June, I'm sorry, yes.
I think we'll need to do this before school opens. so I
Exactly,
think we'll-
because I would like to see a plan before then to see if this is possible to implement before school. I just think we need the additional information.
Okay, all right.
Would there be information on, we're accepting students, but what would happen if we have to then deny those students? Maybe our ISD enrollment just jumps out. Now we don't have room for these students.
In there,
Is it, okay,
we can deny, at the end of the school year, you can deny.
so they would have to go
time.
back to their home
They have to
school?
apply each year,
Okay.
yeah, so.
And that was listed in the.
Okay, so we were, moved on to section 10, and that is personnel, and Mr. G.
Like I said, it's all in there, it's listed out, Tracy does a great job of putting all the resignations and the new hires in there, so if you have any questions, or if you got things we need to go into closed session to discuss, then I have not heard anything from anyone, so.
Are there any issues on anyone that we need to have discussion on in closed session?
No, but will this solidify all the positions where we have
All.
vacancies?
No, we will not fortify the position till probably to July.
July?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, then we'll move to section 11, the superintendent's report.
Before we move on, I'm sorry, just one further question. I think we've kind of brought this up a little bit before, but I would like to see at some point moving forward, some of these resignations and, retirements, or maybe bilingual positions, sped program positions, assistant principal positions. I would like to see moving forward sort of what our recruitment plan looks like. Do we have a targeted recruitment strategy for various positions? And are we looking at some of the HBCUs? Are we looking at, what colleges, what fairs are we going to do some recruitment? And I would like to see that at some point in the future.
All right, thank you, Ms. Douglas. And now we can go to section 11. Superintendent's report.
And you have the s'mores, I don't know if it's the s'mores, if you have questions. The principals, later date. The enrollment update, that's informational for you, so you have that in front of you. You can see where we've dropped 10 since the last report, 10 students. Went from 58 increases down to 48. I think I covered that with the other sheet, so I don't want to spend too much time here on that. So I do want to get to our presentation that's here. So safety and security, we feel like I had this on there, and then with the events that happened 2 days ago, it's actually kind of compelling. So Mr. Sproul has been meeting with, I'll let you go over, Mr. Sproul, if you want to come up and introduce our guest for our presentation here.
As Mr. Hello, new board members. My name is Johnny Sproul. I'm the Director of Safety and Security. I had this meeting set, we set this meeting about a month ago to meet with a new vendor for cameras and door access. Our current company is performing less than stellar, so we're looking for a new vendor. I met these people at a training at ESC 11, and they have a very good track record for their safety and security camera systems and door access. They met with me Tuesday, early morning, and we talked about this, and then later that day, of course, the events took place that took place. I'd like for them to talk to you about what they offer, because from what I've heard from them, they offer a very good product, much better than what we're receiving right now. We'd like to upgrade our system to a new system that is not a two-part system, part of which is proprietary that we have right now. We'd like to remove that, put in a brand-new system that will carry us into the future. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Clint King and Andrew Nichols from KLC.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having me here. My name is Clint King. I'm a managing partner for a company called KLC Video Security. I'm joined by Andrew Nichols, who's our project manager for the greater DFW area. So just to tell you a little bit about what we do, and I'll try not to be long-winded because I know your time is valuable. I've been doing this almost 20 years in the K-12 market. We cater almost exclusively to the K-12 market. It's what we specialize in. We've got approximately 400 school districts in Texas and Arkansas that we actively service right now. And we specialize in camera security, access control, bus security, and a handful of other things, but all security-based in the K-12 market. Unfortunately, Karen Whitaker wasn't able to be here with us tonight. She is our sales representative for this territory. Karen is a pretty special individual. She was with Region 8 Service Center for 32 years. She retired as the deputy director, and she specialized in grant writing. And one of the things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Spruill, but I think one of the things that brought us together was the conversation about the SVPP grant, which is a potential of up to $500,000 to your district. And I think the concept behind this was to try to use the SVPP grant to help you get your security upgrades done for your district so that it wasn't completely out of pocket. Part of what we're discussing, the upgrade, is the camera security. We're a little bit different than most people in that way. I work with one vendor, or one type of camera system, and that is a Panasonic Video Insight. We do not sell anything else, and we specialize in that product solely. We also do access control, and forgive me, it's a little touch and go for me right now. I have a 10-year-old that just graduated the 4th grade today, and the situation in Uvalde has got us all a little on edge. That actually happened right before I met with your district, with Mr. Spruill. I hadn't even heard about it when we met, so I'm a little touchy about that. But I think no better time than now than to discuss this particular type of security upgrade. One of the benefits of us doing this in your district is to have everything under a single pane of glass, per se, to have everything on one system and accessible through that system so that you don't have to go through multiple avenues to get what it is that you're looking for, because in that crisis time, seconds are important, and they genuinely are. So the main reason for me meeting y'all tonight was to discuss cameras, but I'd also like to discuss the possibility of access control fitting into this budget, because I think from the numbers that I've put together and what we've discussed very briefly for your district is I think we can well fit in the entire district's camera budget for the complete upgrade of the district and possibly moving towards access control as well within this SVPP grant. I don't think that we'll max out that grant with just the cameras, so I think there's some capability to maybe even be able to perform more than what we had originally thought we could do with the grant after putting those numbers together. One of the other things that we do as a company, that we started doing this through our purchasing co-ops that we partnered with, but now we do this with any and everyone that we work with. We offer a 3-year parts, labor, trip charges on anything that we put in. And we do that just because, and we only do that in the K-12 market, but our relationship with the school districts is so important to us. We want to make sure that as we move forward with anything in the schools, that you do not have to worry about if something goes down, constantly having to pay for service and people coming in and out. to repair anything that might be wrong. The other noteworthy part of what it is that we're doing, and again, because we work almost exclusively in the K-12 market, we try to stay away from reoccurring fees. So everything that we would be proposing would be something that you owned once you purchased it. There's not going to be, once you purchase a server, once you purchase the cameras, there's no license fees for the cameras to go onto the servers when we purchase those particular types of cameras, which there is a huge catalog of offerings for that. There's also not going to be any license fees for cameras and software, and no recurring fees for the life of your camera system. So once you buy it, you own it, and there is no coming back and having to pay an annual fee for anything. At this point, I would love to open the floor to answer any questions you might have in regards to this.
So this grant that you're proposing that we go out for is $500,000, is that what you said?
It's up to $500,000,
So
yes, sir.
you're not guaranteed that you would get the $500,000?
No, in fact, that's a very good question. In 2020, there were 16 schools. It's a federal program. So in 2020, there were 16 schools that were awarded in the state of Texas. In 2021, there were only 10. Mrs. Whitaker has been successful both times in being awarded this grant out of however many schools that applied for it. She is quite gifted at it. The grant is fairly complex. It requires a narrative and a reason for why your school needs these funds.
And your company's willing to help us write that grant?
That is correct, sir.
And is this a matching grant?
It is a 75% grant, so it is not a matching grant, but it does require 25% match to 75, or not an equal match, but it is a match. Yes, sir.
So if it's $500,000.
Is that correct?
75% of that, we're gonna have to come up with the other 25%.
The way I understand it is you can be awarded up to 500,000, and then you would be responsible for 25% of that if that's what you wanted to apply for. Yes, sir. But you could be awarded up to 500,000.
I'm gonna.
So essentially, you would
get
have.
off on my tangent here because, we're woefully underfunded for safety and security.
Yes, sir.
And we're forced basically to look for grants to sit there and try to finance and pay for some of these things. We try to do cameras and lock systems. And, we got one company that came in and they promised us the moon, and then they set it on a budget, and then the next thing you know, that tripled, and we had to find another company because that was not feasible. And so we do not have all the money in the world to sit there and pay for all these security systems, but yet we're put on the hook all the time by our government to sit there and find resources.
Oh, I totally understand.
And I'm a little perturbed with that right now.
Well-
I'm perturbed with the lack that we can sit there and we can spend all this money for STAR testing, but we can't put money in safety and security.
Oh, I understand it, and it's not even just safety and security. I went to a superintendent's meeting for Region 15 some months ago, and I heard them talking about what they were required by the state for curriculum. And they told them they could pull the money, they were allowed by the state to pull the money out of special education. And they're going, what do you mean pull the money out? I don't have enough in that to begin with. So I understand your woes, and the only reason that I understand it is because this is the only market that we exist in. So it's the same for all of you. I have many schools in this area that we are doing this work for, and would be more than happy to facilitate any kind of visit or walkthrough so that you would be able to preemptively see the system and work, if you would like to. In fact, we do work in Arlington, which is not too far away from here.
It was my understanding that you were simply gonna work up a proposal of what this could be.
Yes, sir.
Right? That's no cost to us for you to work up a proposal.
That is correct. There's no cost for the workup, for the walkthrough, for the work of the proposal.
You said that when we own it, if we vote for this, when we purchase it, we own it, and there are no recurring fees.
Yes, ma'am.
So who provides the service? Just say a camera goes down or something, how does that work?
We do. KLC
Okay.
provides the service for 3 years. Now this is an offering that we offered. You do not have to, we have some schools that have technology departments that like to handle parts on their own. They'll say they want to run their own wire. They like to create their own network infrastructure. We work with your school in whatever is advantageous for y'all, and that's how we build it.
Mr. King, you said something regarding, you thought that you believe that the $500,000 grant could cover most of this, but we would also have to front 25% of the money, correct?
That is the rule for the SVPP grant, for the
Okay,
federal
so-
grant.
So 125,000, so if it maxed out, we would be looking at 625,000.
That is
worth of
correct.
Security, just so we're clear, would that cover all of our needs?
It would definitely cover all of your camera needs, and then into possible access control or whatever y'all deemed necessary for your district. You know, far be it from me to tell you where you need to spend your money.
Can you elaborate on access control?
Sure.
I have an idea in my mind, but I,
So, let's just discuss the elephant in the room with Uvalde. Nobody wants to talk about it, but what happened was the young gentleman walked in the end of a classroom hall, okay? Nobody knows why that door was left open yet. Nobody knows why it was unlocked or the classroom was unlocked and he was able to just walk in that wing of the school and go in. One of the things that access control does is it can notify you and let you know if doors are propped open. Another thing it can do is you can schedule lock or unlock on doors electronically, so you take the human error out of the equation. The other thing that electronic access control can do is it gives you accountability for who is going in and out of those doors with their access cards, because everybody, unlike a key, everybody has a badge, and when they scan it, the system knows who went in that door at what time and where, and you have a record of that. So there's a lot of things that can be used for, but most importantly right now, I think, is the lockdown procedure. Because you are capable of doing a lockdown procedure with access control to where you can either have a push button in an office, you can have someone who has a master controller access to the software and they can lock down your campus with the push of a button. And that can be really, really important.
You're talking about the exterior doors.
Yes, sir. Even classroom doors, if that's the direction that you tend to go with it. We are capable of doing access control in classroom doors. That is a more costly venture because there are so many more classroom doors, but usually starting with the exterior doors of a school. Yes, sir. And not all doors have to have it.
Can I ask, I think I heard you say that you're currently working with several other districts in the area?
Yes.
And then you also said, I think, that in the whole state of Texas, that only 10 were awarded last year?
That is correct. And 16 the year before.
So I guess if you're working with several in the area, we're just gonna really hope.
We're not working with several in the area to do the SVPP grant. We just work with several school districts in the area to do their cameras and access control.
Oh, I see.
Sorry, and I'm
Thank you for
glad you brought that
clarifying
up for
because I was
clarification.
thinking-
No, we are not currently writing, that would be for y'all. And Karen was awarded both of those years for the school district that she wrote it for, Brazosport and Canton ISD.
so to piggyback off that, how many people applied?
That was my next question.
A lot. It requires an 8-page narrative, and I can tell you I wouldn't be the one to help you write it. But Karen's quite gifted, so if her granddaughter wasn't graduating tonight, she'd be standing here with me explaining it to you.
So we don't get the grant, there's no cost, no obligation.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I wouldn't, we are a family company. I know it's a little cliche to say that, but we are a family company, and I don't nickel and dime people. We just don't do it.
If we do get the grant, that's gonna be a substantial amount of money that y'all would have to be willing to sit there and pay for. So Mr. Sproul wanted them to come present to you. I said, that's fine, but it's gonna take a board vote to sit there before I tell these guys to go ahead and, is that something you feel like you're willing to do?
Yes.
How long will we know, like, when does the grant get submitted?
That's a great question. So it's actually the reason that I'm here tonight is because it is coming up pretty quick. June 14th?
Late June.
Late June is when everything has to be submitted. The first part of it has to be submitted.
That was the other reason for him presenting tonight, is time sensitive, so.
That's correct, yes, sir.
So do we need a motion to accept?
I'm sorry.
Do we need a motion?
No
or
motion,
just-
I just kinda really needed a
Okay.
direction,
No money's being
if that was
spent.
something that was even gonna be
Okay.
feasible. I didn't wanna waste their time trying to work on a grant if that's not something that you feel like you would be interested in. So.
Okay.
Did anyone else have questions?
When do we know when the grant is awarded?
Last year, they said that it's actually takes a little bit to figure out when it is awarded, because they said it was supposed to be September, and it ended up being December 23rd, before they announced publicly who had been awarded the grant.
They sent out, it said like 25 September today.
How many other grants are you guys helping with?
Two.
Two. Are any of them in this area?
No, just y'all.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, sorry. How long will it take to install and to?
So implementation, depending on, because we haven't done the evaluation of what it will take. I'm standing here today to talk to y'all about this before we've even gone through campus maps, looked at how many cameras we actually need for every campus, et cetera. I know based on the size of your campuses, based on the size of your district, how many campuses you have, I know without a shadow of a doubt that 500,000 is going to cover your camera access control. That's going to cover servers, cameras, and implementation. So I don't think that we'll even meet that 500. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth, but that should be more than enough for us to implement your new security system throughout your district. That implementation, if it does go through, should be 5 campuses, 6, how many, is it 6? You have 6 campuses?
6 of you.
Five
with our-
for
well,
next year.
6.5 with our Wildcat Success Center and our admin building.
Okay, so just a rough estimate, 300 cameras, 6 campuses, maybe a few more. What are we thinking, 3 months?
Roughly, I would say around 3 months, depending on the size of the high school and how far in depth it has to go. Roughly.
We have a great crew. They're as good as they come. They're fast.
Any additional questions? Awesome.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Staying on safety and security, you know, we had a situation at the high school last Monday, I believe it was, last Monday. Anonymous tips, every time there's an anonymous tip, we have to sit there, one, substantiate it, or is it substantial or is it not substantiated? And when you can't substantiate it, then you have to take other actions. Well, the person was uncooperative, wouldn't give name, you know, but they called 3 times. And so we went into a hold pattern and we sat there and brought in dogs and systematically went through the campus. And I believe we did that in about an hour and a half, you know, by the time dogs got here and we got everything going. A lot of transition, there was a lot of testing going on. I mean, there was a lot of things that were happening on the high school that day. And so it's a disruption to your school district, you know, but whenever someone says, you know, you need to check backpacks, well, how do you check backpacks? So I am going to propose that we move to clear backpacks and clear backpacks only next year. And I don't think we're gonna get any, conflicting from our secondary campuses, you know, viewpoints. I know Mr. Sproul, you're in favor of it, yes or no?
Absolutely.
Okay, so would you like to speak to the need for this, or, I mean?
I'm sure you all understand and know that weapons are easily hidden in a backpack like the one that's propped up against the wall. You can't see what's in it. For some reason, all of our students have a backpack, not just one, not 2. Everybody has a backpack. Now, when I went to school, we carried our books in our hand. These kids don't even have books. They have Chromebooks. They don't really have anything that is that cumbersome that they really need a backpack for, but everybody has one. We have discovered weapons in our school that were brought in a backpack. Weapons could be brought in other ways, but all we can do is try to reduce the potential for weapons to come in our school. And backpack, clear backpacks are one way we can do that. So this is an attempt to try to mitigate the potential for weapons to come in our school.
So, the estimate here is if the district bought these and then turned around and sold them, this would be the cost to basically purchase enough backpacks to provide for all of our students. And there's two different sizes here. There's one for the younger kids and one for the older kids. Mr. Sproul is in favor of all of our students going to clear backpacks, not just the secondary students. I know there was some concern voiced whenever we talked about this previously, where what if there's not enough availability, or what if kids can't get the backpacks? Well, if we had a way of providing those backpacks for them to where they could purchase them from us, then we wouldn't have to worry about the supply chain. This is a local company, that's quite expensive, but I mean, the backpacks could be sold for more than that and recoup the cost. So the reality is that you either tell them to get them themselves, or you try to find a way to provide ones for students who can't seem to find them. This is one local way of getting it. It's, you have availability to get them, but there are other options that we haven't really had time to explore as far as cheaper options.
So, Mr. G, for clarification, you're not trying to say that everybody needs to purchase these backpacks, you're just saying a clear backpack.
If you wanted to just tell them that we're gonna move to, I just need to know whether we're gonna set that mantra down that we're going to clear backpacks next year and clear backpacks only, then we need to put it out on the school supply list, and we need to have them start picking them up themselves. If you are worried that they're not gonna have backpacks to sit there and, cause I heard that concern, that what if they can't find them? Well, then we don't even have to order all of these, we can order some to where we have a supply for students who may possibly not be able to find them, that we could sit there and sell them ourselves to them. But I believe we need to move to clear backpacks because it disrupts the school environment. Every time we get these anonymous tips and we have to sit there and shut down school, it is a disruption. And we have no way of validating that other than doing it, shutting down the schools. And that's problematic.
Do we have any data on other districts that might currently have clear backpacks, and if it has mitigated any issues? Because I don't know, I'm the first one that is wanting better safety and security on campus, whatever we can do to protect our kids. But I also think that if someone is wanting to do something, they're gonna figure out a way to do it. Even if they have a clear backpack, they'll wrap a jacket or some, So I'm just curious if there's any other information that we've seen research that has another district that has done this and they've seen
I'm sure Mr. Sproul
good
can
results.
check around and we can get that info for you. They may even be able to help with that, with just the contacts of
Have
schools
you seen
they
a
have.
district with clear backpacks?
Yes, quite a few. So, I did not be speaking on this.
I'm sorry.
Just from a statistical standpoint, everything that we do is prevent. Putting cameras in your school is
Right.
not going to keep somebody from committing an act. It's a preventative measure.
Right.
You've got the ability to see who did it. You have the ability to say, okay, if you do this act, we'll know who you are and you will be punished for this act. Cameras aren't going to stop it from happening.
Right.
Access control can't guarantee to keep somebody out of the school, but it makes it harder to do. And I think having a clear backpack in the school district makes it much harder for somebody to be able to bring that in. And even if it makes them contemplate, should not do this particular act because someone's gonna catch me. So typically it's just a
I think it goes back to the whole anonymity thing, if they think they're hiding or they can't hide, they're going to try. But I mean, and he brings up a very valid point. Most of our textbooks, we have a few textbooks, but Chromebooks are, where most of our books are at now. And so what do they really need to carry around in a bag? And so Mr. Franklin and I have spoken about maybe just getting Chromebook cases, and that's what they're allowed to bring around. But then those are pretty expensive as well, and that becomes another issue, and they're not clear, so I think this is our best route to go. So, it's not an action item, but just for discussion, but I just wanted to tell you kind of where I'm headed, so think about it, roll it around, and, give me some feedback if you wanna give me feedback, all right?
So, Mr. G, when would a decision on that have to be made? Because I'm sure it has to get out on the, to the parents as soon as possible.
Well, I mean, that's not a board decision, it's just I just need to know if it's something you're gonna support, so I don't wanna sit there and implement a procedure and say, this is what we're moving to, and then we get a backlash or whatever from it, and then we start, backing up from it. I feel like if we're gonna do this, we need to do it, and we need to go all in on it, and, it's not
Well, the kids at the
Actually,
high
we don't
school,
have
I don't know
enough
all of them, but quite a few of them, they're already talking about this. So somebody somewhere already told them. I think something happened in the fall when we first started talking about clear backpacks, and then it was be prepared because eventually you're going to go to clear backpacks. So quite a few of the organizations apparently have already told the other high schoolers that next year we're going to clear backpacks. So at least at that campus, this discussion has already been had amongst the kids. So they are kind of prepared for it. It's like, when are y'all gonna make us, well, because they've already talked about it
I
amongst
really
their
think
friends.
most of the kids would be thankful because the intrusion that we have to sit there, the intrusion.
Right, where
into
they're
their
trying to
school day
take
all
the map
time.
test, and
Yeah.
here comes a dog,
Yeah.
and the teacher says, oh, keep testing, but there's a dog next to me. So their mindset is already, at least at the high school, the younger grades.
I mean, they do, and granted, we're already doing it at football stadiums, at games, you have to have a clear bag to get in. I just was curious if there was anything that we could.
I just see it as a deterrent. Is it gonna stop everything? No. But like they pointed out, cameras and door access systems aren't gonna stop it's all deterrent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, even just the comment about it might make someone think twice about it, yeah.
If I'm correct, I think after the most recent Mansfield incident, they
Yeah,
went to clear
it was.
backpacks, and I think there were discussions then about other districts and possibly, looking at clear backpacks,
I
so.
believe that's
I know
what we
they
started
also
talking about
I think-
after
In the
Timber.
fall, yeah.
Correct, right. Now, I hear your comment about the Chromebooks. I still do think the littles probably take more items with them, and certainly girls are gonna need to bring personal items, whether in a purse or something, so I don't think just a Chromebook case is very realistic, but certainly a backpack where you can still put your personal items, still put your other, pencil packs or whatever else that you need in with a Chromebook and still serve the purpose of a deterrent, more visibility, more preventative in nature. So I don't think a Chromebook case itself would be the answer, but a clear backpack would be a more reasonable measure.
Would it be something that would go as dress code so it's more enforceable? And you don't have, would it be something that would go under the dress code so you can enforce it better? You don't have parents that say, no, my kid's not using a clear
Most
backpack.
definitely, but like I said, that's gonna have to be supported by y'all.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So I know you were saying this was just kind of a discussion, but if it does need to get on the dress code, if it does need a decision made on whether we're going to supply some of them or just, request that they find them, what time frame are we looking at doing that so that we can make a decision and?
So it's not an action item, but if I get you can contact me individually, and if you feel like you can support it, I'll make it happen. So, it's not a vote, it's just
But it would have to get on the dress code, which we have to approve, right?
dress code's not, no. The dress code is, you only approve the code of conduct. The dress code is on the student handbook.
We looked at the dress code last year. We didn't approve it.
Okay, when we added blue jeans.
We had a full
and-
discussion about it,
Oh,
only to
yes.
realize that it wasn't
No,
a,
it was
something we voted on.
changing the shirts.
Yeah, the changing the
Changing the
shirts
shirts
to,
and holes in the jeans.
yeah, so we had that whole conversation, okay, so we
Yeah,
just
but
sort of.
we didn't vote on anything.
Okay, we didn't vote on it, we just had the conversation, and when we were supportive, then you modified the dress code accordingly. Okay.
All right. All right, any additional questions regarding that discussion? Okay, great. All right, so let's go to 11D, the preliminary compensation packet update.
All right,
Mr.
Mr. King has created these documents for you. They're draft, they say draft, so it's not done. Mr. Adams, Ms. King and I had numerous conversations, and sat down and trying to look at
Where we are, we have not received our, we will not receive our final values until end of May. And, well, what day exactly, Jimmy? July, sorry. End of May, we should have preliminary values. We're not gonna know, basically what I'm saying is like exactly where we're sitting as far as budgeting for next year until we get all of those in. We, as I spoke to before, we don't have the numbers of students to sit there and be able to go out and announce where we are exactly with our salary structures because of that. I know there were concerns that you wanted where we're sitting. Last time we spoke, we talked about looking at
Percentage of budget.
starting between 58 and 60 with our starting salaries and portion from there. So this is where we are right now. There are three structures here. There's one with the starting salary at 58, one at 59, and then the one at 60. And then the proportionality going from there and how that breaks down. I don't know if you want to, how much detail you want to go into right now, but these are numbers that, you know, Mr. Adams is going to feel much more comfortable around the starting somewhere between 58 or 59 and staying with the increments that we're looking at here.
So when will we know what proposal we're kind of moving forward with?
I guess that's kind of what we're discussing here, you know, it's just, you know.
Okay, okay. Okay,
So modified from last discussion.
okay.
So these are all doable, right? These are all.
Well,
This is what he
we'd
feels
say the
is-
50 to 59, I think, this is where he's more comfortable with.
Because I know a lot of some of the other school districts are already at 60,
Yeah.
Oh, announcing.
announcing, correct? 60, some are you at 60,
Yes,
500.
and when you look at what some of the other districts are doing and with their 60, it's, some of them are starting at 58 and there's extra things on top. But that second year, it drops back. So you might get, it's like a signing bonus. You sign for whatever pro team you're gonna play for and then you get this big bonus, but then they take it away.
And
So
I'm
the
gonna say this
58
in-
is pretty good with me. I like the 58.
I'm gonna say this on the record, you know, because I know that everybody likes to sit there and compare us on UAA and where we sit on our salaries. But they don't compare our enrollment to all these other districts. When you look at EAs, besides the outlying small rural areas, in the Metroplex itself, we are the smallest enrollment. We have 2850 students, and we're going up against people with 50,000 students. There's no way we're going to keep matching those salaries. And people have to understand that, you know? We have to be able to do what we can to stay financially solvent. And if we start bumping up our salary structure to where we're getting, you know, when I got here, I think we were at 78% with our budget was personnel salaries. We've had to compress our tax rate, we've had to go down. We are, this last year, we were at 80%, and if we keep bumping up, you know, we're gonna be at 82, working up to 85%. That's not feasible. And people have to understand that we can't always match these big, huge districts. We have to do what's good for our district financially. And, you know, we have other benefits of what, you know, of working here in this district compared to working in some of those big districts. You know, I understand that everybody wants, you know, right now, it's all about salary, but if we're gonna stay financially sound, we can't jump up to that 60,000 range like these other people may be doing so. And I think if you look at the, ranking where on the left-hand side with each one of these structures at each level or tier, she shows you where right now we would be ranking. You know, I think if you look at the 58, 58.5, 59 range, I think 58.5 or 59, we're very competitive, sorry.
I think it's great that we're having a conversation, because I think people just need to understand, we do think it's very important, it's very serious, we do love our teachers, want to retain, want to recruit, but again, because of our small district size, there are some limitations to what we can do. But there are also some benefits to working to a closer knit, smaller school district. But we take it very seriously, and we've had extensive conversations about it, and are trying our very best to see how we can come up with a great compensation package. But again, we're different than a larger district, but.
And, you know, I'm gonna give kudos to Mr. Adams. We have given raises every year since I've been here and he's been here, we've given raises, and I think we've stayed competitive. We have dropped off on our beginning salaries, which is why I think we need to catch up with our beginning salaries and our 5-year salaries. But we stayed very, very competitive with our remaining salaries throughout the years. In fact, Mr. Cagle said that he recruited a teacher away from some other district because of the way our salary structure was built, that she saw that she was gonna make more money in our district in their later years than she was in the other district she was in. So I think there are some benefits to that, but I also believe we need to work on some proportionality, you know, if we jump up to 60, there's not proportionality there, and it's benefiting all in the front end and not helping in the back end as much, so we need to spread that out, so.
So I have a question for you here. This is only teacher salaries. I know we had at one point discussed other staff as well, paras, all of that.
I don't have that sheet with me. I do have the sheet with me, hang on.
Are we making any adjustment to stipends as well?
So what we'd be looking at in that would be $11 bumping our entry-level custodial food service, auxiliary personnel from $11 an hour to $13 an hour. That's an approximate change of 18% higher starting salary. Paraprofessionals increasing from $12.02 to $13 an hour, approximate 8% starting higher. And other operational and paraprofessional 4%, paraprofessional and administrative staff 3%, and that's where we kind of spoke about our beginning conversations here. Now, with the $58,000, that's a $634,000 just estimate of increase to our budget. $59,000 starting salary with the step that we're talking about would be a $682,000 increase to our budget. And if we topped out at the 60, with the increment that we talked out, that's $800,000 increase to our budget.
Are substitutes included in one of those categories?
I believe they're there, but their pay is separate from.
Right, but
salary structure.
they would be included in some kind of increase as well? Have we looked at that?
That was just bumped to
We
the
just
fall.
did that,
Ms.
didn't
King,
we?
you wanna come down, or? Yeah, okay.
We just bumped that.
Yeah.
I
Up a
think
little bit,
after the
yeah.
school year started.
Yeah, we did. Hello.
Welcome to new board members. My name is Brandy King. I'm Director of Human Resources. I apologize, I do not have salary scales with me, and the numbers right now are, my brain's full with numbers.
But that was bumped after the school year started.
We actually bumped the substitute starting salaries last year with the compensation change. What we changed during the middle of the school year, or after the beginning of the school year starting, we decreased their college hour requirement. I want to say we did about a $10 increase per day on average. And then we also have that long-term separate where they're subbing for any district position at least 10 consecutive days, they would get a $10 additional day rate. So last year we looked at stipends, we looked at athletic stipends, we looked at department head stipends, UIL, coordinator stipends, and we did a significant change last year with those individuals. Let's see, I didn't bring it down with me. The minimum starting pay we're seeing for food service, custodial staff, we are under kind of the industry average at $11 starting currently, and we did make an adjustment last year to try and get us more competitive, but we're just finding that we're lagging behind in that degree, so that's why we're looking at jumping to $13 an hour for those individuals, as well as our paraprofessional staff, jumping to $13 per hour. Okay. Any other questions?
I will say, other districts have raised their sub, and they're still short on subs, so So I don't know that that necessarily is gonna fix our problem.
Okay.
I'm glad you also brought up about, because one consideration, I think it's good to mention this, is, you know, we're not trying to raise salaries just to draw in new people and really benefit brand new people to our district. We're making sure that we're still compensating and really showing our appreciation for the people that are here, have been here, and have stayed here. So,
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
make sure.
I think that is important because just as we would like to get teachers from other districts would like to get teachers from us as well.
Exactly, and,
So-
and they're trying, so we just, and that was another reason too, I'm sorry, but this is why it was really important, I'll speak for myself, but, you know, every district right now is dangling all these shiny things to try to get everyone, because everyone's struggling to fill positions, so now is the time, and so this is why we really wanted to be transparent and share, this is what we're trying very hard to do, and we're so thankful for everyone that is in this district and chooses to stay here, and we're trying to do the best we can with.
Absolutely.
I look at Lake Worth and Castleberry, and they're the two closest in the Metroplex to our size,
Yeah.
and they, you know, they still have anywhere from 700 to 800 students more than we have.
Yeah.
And they are also both 75% economically disadvantaged, so they get a whole lot more federal money than we get. And so those are very big factors, and they beat us on the beginning structures, but they are not beating us on the end structure. You know, and that's who I really kind of try to compare ourselves to the most.
I mean, and I would say just looking at comparisons from UEA, and I know that you've probably seen this document before, we're very competitive in our year 10 to year 30 range for teachers on the salary scale with their years of experience. It's those, the 0 through 10, that we need to adjust. And we hope that moving forward with one of these starting minimums would help us do that.
And realize that where she says where we are right now, that's currently, but as other districts start announcing their stuff, that.
It will
that's gonna
fluctuate.
fluctuate,
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we still doing the stipend in November? Is that still gonna stay?
That is included in the
That's included
estimates
in
that he provided you,
those estimates, yes.
Mhm. Which is a great benefit for working at Kennedale ISD.
Say it loud and proud.
Absolutely. Especially
right.
for our married employees.
Anything else
Yes.
y'all want to discuss on this? Or ask a question you want to ask?
Thank you so much.
Jess?
I think this is a good reason, this right here, this entire discussion is a reason why we need to hash out the details on open enrollment.
We do.
Pie's not growing.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so,
Very good.
this is not an action item for
No,
tonight.
actually, no, just information.
It's informational purposes only.
And just for clarification, your recommendation is that we start out at the $58,000 starting salary, right? Is that what the recommendation
We
is?
won't know until.
Well, I'm watching, Mr. Adams there, and he's, you know.
That would be the minimum?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
And when will we know then? Because I guess teachers are looking, right? So,
Into May?
Like I said, we don't have the numbers specifically
Okay.
to throw out.
so we really can't throw out, we basically what we're able to say to teachers at this point is 58 minimum, someplace
Starting.
between,
That's the
starting,
date, starting.
for 58 starting, someplace between 58 to 60 starting, depending on our numbers and what we can do. That's kind of what we're
And
looking at.
Each scale has.
And each
is going
scale
with
has-
At least 1,500.
Yes.
With the percentages mentioned in all the other categories.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you for clarifying that, because I know we all get questions.
Yeah.
And I think if we can respond in a uniform manner,
Yeah.
that would
And if this puts it in relation, over the last few years, we have been giving roughly, the increments have been about $1,200, you know?
Okay.
And this is more than those increments.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to section 12 for discussion on the upcoming meeting dates and times. 12A, that is. Okay, so that's for our next meeting. And so that is, all right.
I'm going to say that we may have to have be prepared to have a special meeting for the improvements at the junior high school, so that we can sit there and meet the requirements that we may need to meet as far as permitting and all of that, and getting the stuff done by the time we need it done by. So time to meet the time constraints, so.
And maybe adding on the open enrollment pending, and then.
Yeah, we could,
then-
We could do that.
Do that open enrollment of that too, time too.
Would we do that before the Summer Leadership Institute? That's it, right? SLI? Because the week before this meeting, June 23rd, is the Summer Leadership, isn't it?
Well, that's one thing we need to kind of talk through. I mean, we could have, we're all headed out that day and people are available, we could have
A week before
afternoon
this.
meeting
Oh,
before
with the
we
summer.
headed out, you know, if everybody's all together, we could do that and then head to where we're going. But I don't know if that fits everybody's time frame.
Some leadership begins on Wednesday the 15th.
Correct,
Yes.
Mhm. Are we driving down the 15th?
yes.
Okay.
And we have to discuss that, that's the next item with like kind of our details of what we're doing, but,
Yeah.
you know, I would say we may need to have it even sooner than that, so
that's what I was thinking.
I'll have
I
more
don't wanna rush
information,
it.
as I talk with Robert,
Yeah.
and kind of start feeling out with the architects what we need to get done, we will, possibly, it could be not next week, but the week after that we have to call a special meeting, so.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just giving you a heads up on that.
So for our next scheduled board
Next scheduled regular meeting would be on the
3rd.
on the
But our
23rd.
special meeting would be, I'm sorry, excuse me, our special meeting would be at 6 or 7 or?
I don't think we've decided a special meeting yet.
Oh, well,
I
okay,
said I
if
would-
we need to meet,
Within the next 2 weeks.
I
Within
prefer
the
to do
next 2
special
weeks.
meetings, like,
At 6?
So the week of the
but I
6th?
don't know how that fits everybody's schedule, so.
Summertime, that would work
Yep.
fine for me.
So, everybody good with 6 o'clock for special, any special meeting? Okay, all right, so that's good. Now then, the 23rd is when the regular scheduled meeting is scheduled. And that's because we're gonna be in SLI on the 3rd week, so like kind of pushing it to the 4th week. And then in July, we have to have a discussion on whether you wanna have it on the 21st when it's scheduled for, or can we bump it to the 28th? Tracy would really appreciate it if y'all would move it to the 28th. She's got some vacation planned.
I'm on vacation the 28th,
You're on vacation the 28th. All that whole week?
the whole week,
Okay.
the 23rd.
I was thinking we could move it earlier.
But
What about the 14th then?
you're
You're doing the
welcome to.
14th.
The 14th?
Yes,
July?
on the
That's
13th,
right,
now
2
could bring
weeks
the
after
cake.
Okay.
the other one, so.
Yeah.
Your birthday,
Okay.
you'd rather have your cake on the 4th, so have a happy life.
So the 14th.
You're welcome to meet without me on the 21st.
Do what?
You're welcome to meet without me on the 21st, if that's more
Everybody good
convenient
with
for
that?
everybody.
So we're talking about the 21st of
July.
July.
21st, 14th.
Not the 14th,
Oh,
it's too close to the.
We would
previous.
prefer to have the meeting on the 28th
Yep. 20th.
of July.
It's fine.
I'm ready for it.
I am good with either.
Yeah.
28th of July, that would work.
See, there's so much
You're okay?
PD.
No, I'm over here, but I'm okay with you guys going ahead.
Actually works better for me.
All right, so
So-
28th good?
That's fine.
28th.
July.
28th of July, all right.
And so the one in June, it's the 23rd, right?
The one in
Yes.
June is the
Okay.
23rd, because we're gonna be in SLI
Yes.
the week before that.
All right, great. All right, so we have those dates knocked out, and next would be the Summer Leadership Institute in San Antonio.
Okay, so that's on the 15th through the 18th. Tracy's got all the arrangements. We just need to figure out travel, who's going with who. You know, if anybody's, I'm be taking the District Suburban. If anybody wants to ride with me, then we need to, I can fit probably 4 or 5 comfortably, so, but, you know, with all the luggage, I don't know how much luggage everybody has, so. You also, I don't know if you plan on bringing your families or anyone. If that's the case, then you may have to have your own transportation, so.
So I think that's probably what will happen at my household, so I'll be taking my own transportation.
I'll be driving myself.
So I just need you to coordinate with me. If you want to ride with me, then I need to know, okay?
Okay, so I have a training on Saturday. Are you all staying till Saturday?
I'm staying
I
until
think
Saturday
we-
with you.
I think we all, I mean, Tracy, Are we all staying through Saturday for the training?
Right now, that's the plan, but that's what she's needing to know. If we don't wanna stay for that Saturday morning training, then let Tracy know, because she'll cancel our Friday night hotel if we're leaving on Friday.
I think Maria and I are the only ones that
We
I think
have to.
Well, you have to, yeah, but
The rest
You
of us
guys.
do not have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Are you staying, Chad? Are you planning on staying for?
If they need me to stay, I'll stay, but, I mean, it's like.
I can take my own vehicle. I mean,
I'll be driving myself.
Okay, so if they're driving themselves, then I probably won't stay.
Okay.
But it's just one training Saturday morning, so.
Yeah.
that's the one. I just take my own car.
So, anybody else staying for the training on Saturday? And you're going to Fort Worth, okay? So
I'm staying for the training Saturday, and I'm driving myself.
Okay.
I will be staying, and I've let Tracy know.
I think
We'll stay.
I think I'm staying as well, but I'm driving myself. Okay.
We're all staying, Tracy,
Wait, so you're going, you're staying on Sunday?
except for Mr. G.
You're still going and swerving and staying Saturday? Okay.
Oh,
Every case. So now, if everybody's staying, then whoever wants to ride with me, just let me know.
never mind.
We're all
Mr.
staying.
G's staying too.
Everyone's going.
Okay, all right, and last on the agenda is the ceremony on tomorrow, KISD Service Award and Retire Recognition Ceremony.
Yeah, we got to do this last year, and I've been trying to do it, then we had COVID, and it was kind of, but last year, it was, it was a good way to wrap up the year, and we hope to have some of that energy again as we wrap up this year. It's been, I said it at the beginning of the year, I said, I think Ms. Wells, we just had this conversation this morning, and it was like, you told us it was gonna be, this would be a harder year, and I said, yeah, I did, this would be a harder year, and I think it's been hard on people, and so having a little bit of feel good at the end of the year is always
Nice.
always nice. So you're more than welcome to come to the award ceremony and recognize our employees. So if you can be there, we appreciate you be there.
And it is tomorrow at 2:30?
2:30 in the pack.
In the pack.
Okay. All right. I think that's it, right?
Wow, I get the chance to ask for a motion for adjournment for my first meeting.
I'd love to make a motion to adjourn.
That's a motion by Ms. Villagomez.
Second.
I'm gonna go and give it to Ms. Douglas, because I think I heard her first. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And this meeting is adjourned.
Oh.